Hey everybody, welcome to the High Quality Fun Podcast. Today we have Alan on. Alan just completed the Highland Trail 550, which is an event in the UK, 550 mile or kilometers?
Miles, yeah.
Mile bike ride that I discovered on Instagram, and I'm just really excited to hear about that and hear about all the backpacking or bikepacking trips that Alan's done. So Alan, how you doing today?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing good. After doing some research on you, and our little pre-call, I'm more excited to talk to you than when we first spoke. So
Nice.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and just kind of tell everybody how you got into this bikepacking hobby and these events you've done.
Yeah, cool. So my name is Alan Boardman, and I'm based in England, and I bikepack more than I do anything else whatsoever. It's really cool the way it sort of worked out. Is I've always been into bikes. Then I had about a year and a half off where I didn't do anything whatsoever and just kind of sat around and didn't really move. And then I was like, I want to ride 100 miles in a day on my road bike. So picked it out, dusted it off, rode 100 miles after 6 weeks of trying to get up the strength to do it. And I was like, I like that. And then it just kept on going and going. And then before I knew it, I was riding 200 miles in a day. So you start getting a bit bored of the road and want to do something a little bit different. So I was browsing the internet, and I seen this guy on a bike with like deep section carbon wheels, and I was like, who's this guy? Because he's got bags all over it, but this super lightweight bike. And it was Mike Hall. Mike Hall was like a real inspirational bikepacker who super humble from Yorkshire. Like rode around the world in like record time and wanted to create something for people that couldn't just ride around the world. He wanted to do like something that he did within a holiday. So a 2-week race was formed called the Transcontinental Race. So that's why he had bags all over it, because it was fully self-supported. But I didn't know any of this. So I spoke to my friend. I was like, you've got bags on your bike. What's all this about? And he told me. And I was like, I wouldn't mind some of that. So he's like, oh, I'll come around, have a beer. I'll loan you some stuff, and we'll go out and have a little camp out and see if you like it. I was like, yeah, all right, well, I'll do that. And then, I spent my first night in the stars, freezing cold because I had a terrible cold sleeping bag. It was horrendous. But it was such a little adventure. It was so good. And I was hooked from then. So, fast forward a little bit of time, and then you start playing out and doing a bit of bikepacking on a weekend, shorter things at first with like, some beers involved, maybe whiskey, ice cream and such. And then it kind of spiraled from there because I was already into long distance riding. So I wanted to ride further. So I ended up sleeping to ride instead of riding to sleep. So if you ride to sleep, you only ride about 10 miles and then you sleep, and then, marshmallows come out and you have a bit of fun. But if you want to ride longer, you're usually quite a long way away from somewhere where you can stay. So you chuck your tent up so you can sleep somewhere and then carry on riding the next day. And then like events, like social events in the UK in the Lake District, there's one called Gen Ride, which is like a more, it was at the time a more mountain biking bikepacking event over 2 days on a weekend, taking in some of the biggest mountains in the lakes and just having a right load of fun. But I'd done my first Gen Ride in one go with no sleep in sub 24 hours, and it kind of like clicked something in my head. So I was like, I think I can push myself more than I'm giving myself credit for. So that's it. Kind of snowballed from there. So I always say I've got like two hats. I'll go out and I'll do a couple of miles and I'll sleep out and have a laugh and drink whiskey. But then there's other times where I just like load my bike up. I don't tell anyone what I'm doing. Then I'll go off and do something big, and then come back quite knackered and quite worn out from it. So it kind of like escalated from there, to be fair. And then the bigger your rides get, the more you start looking to see how else you can challenge yourself. What else can you do?
Yeah, that's like a common thing that I'm finding with all these different guests on here. Is it's just that like mental aspect of how much can you push your body. Like, I can't imagine running or biking or doing anything for 24 hours straight. But after hearing so many people do it, I feel like the body is able, so the mind is strong enough. Yeah, so you're the first bike packer I've really talked to, and I kind of have a general idea of what this is. I imagine it's the same as hiking, but all your gear is on your bike. You get to travel a little bit quicker, easier and harder to do certain terrains. Is there anything special that you need to carry on this? Is there anything that you want to share just to like ground me on bike packing?
Well, a lot of the stuff I would say is quite similar to likes of a through hike. You're not going to take the biggest kit. You're going to take the smallest kit that you can, because you're only going to be putting it in one bag on your back. So that could, it depends on the size of the backpack, but you could have like 40, 50, 60, 80 litre rucksack on your back, and you've got all of this stuff. I think a lot of the stuff that you use for through hikes and such like that, you can basically use on bike packing. It just goes into a smaller bag, and then you've got to spend a long time figuring out what's important. Like, do you really need that extra pair of jeans? No, you definitely don't. You need maybe a padded short at most. So it's all about just trying to minimize it as much as you can for your needs. Some people go out with hardly anything, and win big races, and then there's other people that go out with a little bit more stuff. But there's a lot of crossover from backpacking for sure.
Is there anything unique with these, like the Highland Trail 550? That was kind of a race. Whereas if you're just doing a casual ride, you can actually stop through towns and restock and everything. Or are you stopping through towns for both of those events?
It's always both. So if it's a social ride, you're more likely to stop at a cafe and have a coffee. Or you're more likely to stop and take a few pictures or have a sit down on some a field or something. When you're on the likes of the Highland Trail or any other individual time trials or group starts or anything, whenever you go through a town, it's usually a bit of a grab and dash. There's a bit more of an urgency to things. If you're like stopping, you're like, before you come to a stop, you're trying to figure out what you want to buy and what else you need to do at the same time. Because there's no, there's a lot of time wasted by going in, getting your resupply, and then coming out and then looking for, your iPod, or looking to see where your multi-tool is. You can do stuff on the bike whilst you're coming to a stop. So there's a bit more urgency when you're doing the likes of like the Highland Trail or whatever. Than there is when you're out with friends, because when you're with friends, like getting even through gates, that's, you ride up to a gate, you stop, you get off, open the gate, a few people ride through, you close the gate, you have a chat about the hill that you've just ridden up, you ride along a bit more, come up to another gate, repeat, and then there's a lot of faff time, which is nice when you're in a social, when you're on a social ride. But when you're doing an event, all of that seems to be a lot quicker because you're on your own usually. You ride it as self-supported, so you're on your own and you can get through a gate quicker and, search through your food bag for a Kit Kat or whatever chocolate bar you want, and then slam the gate closed whilst you're ripping it open with your mouth. There's a bit of multitasking that you need to do. So, but yeah, you go through towns and resupply as and when, really.
I gotcha. So for people who don't know, can you maybe explain what the Highland Trail 550 is? Kind of the, what makes it unique, what makes it challenging, and how you decided to do it and get signed up for it. Because my understanding is it's like invite only. You register for it and you actually have to get accepted to be able to compete in this event.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the reason why you've got to register for it, like you got to show your interest and show your background, is one of the things that makes it unique. you've almost got to qualify for it. You've got to either have done big rides, like off your own back, like a 600k or whatever, or 200k day rides along with a few other things thrown in, like a mountain climbing or something, or an actual route that the chap who designed this race, Alan Goldsmith, he has made the Cairngorms Loop, and he's also made the Lakeland 200, which is in the Lake District. So it's 200 kilometers, about 7,000 meters of climbing. There's a lot of metrics getting mixed up here because depending on what route is made by who, it depends what it's called. So yeah, the measurements are always mixing up. But that is a 40-hour cut-off time. So if you can do that in sub 40 hours, so from the second you press go on your computer to the second that you get back to the start and press stop, that is the whole time. So you could ride through it all, or you could ride a little bit, sleep a lot, and then ride a lot faster at the end. And as long as that 40 hours is met, that's one of the sort of stepping stones into the Highland Trail. So it's 550 miles that starts in Highlands and Tyndrum, which is just south of Glencoe, which is like the start of the real Highlands, basically. You ride from Tyndrum all the way up to the most northerly point of the route, which is the Bailach Horn, which is on the route. My computer was in kilometers, so it was like 417k in, which is whatever it is in miles. So it's like the furthest away, and then all the way back down again on the west coast. It's beautiful, but because it's Scotland, it's actually snowing there right now. Last week it was nice weather. The week before it was 20 degrees, and I had friends who'd done it and only had a raincoat on for 30 minutes, and they're putting sun cream on, having ice cream. It's 16,000 meters of climbing, so almost to Everest. And it's not all riding your bike. There's a lot of hiker bike. There's a lot of climbing up a mountain and dragging your bike up with you. There's even the descents will stop some of the most proficient mountain bikers from riding down. You have to climb down the other side a lot of the time as well. So that's what makes it pretty unique. So the route, anyone can ride at any time, but if you want to start on the grander part, you do have to qualify for it in some way.
Yeah, and you said that it's snowing right now. Something about the UK is it's always raining or snowing or something. So I don't know if you had any wild weather you had to go through, but I would imagine that it was wet and dry throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, it was sun cream some days. It was 4 layers and a raincoat with your hood up. There was a weather warning for thunderstorms. I didn't ride through the thunderstorms, but I did ride through torrential rain, thick fog, big puddles, and then everything was soaking wet. So when you get into your tent, the tent gets wet. You put your dry stuff on, that gets wet. Your sleeping bag gets wet, and you put it all the way wet, and then you do it again the next day, and everything's soaking wet. But then, it gets better. Everything gets dry at some point, so you just have to hope for a nice day for it to dry out everything.
I'm not so familiar with that area. I've always wanted to go visit, but I've never gone. Is all of that government owned property where you can just camp wherever you want and just throw up your sleeping bag?
So Scotland has the open access, and it also has you can camp pretty much anywhere.
That's awesome.
You just got to leave no trace, set no fires. Don't leave any rubbish. Just don't be horrible. Basically, you can camp anywhere. There is some camping management zones, which are usually through the touristy parts, or through villages that have had maybe too many wild campers there, and you then have to buy a permit, or you're just not allowed to. But it's all big estates. There's a few estates. I'm not sure how many estates, but the estate could go on for miles, absolutely miles, like 10, 15, 20 miles of this massive estate of mountains where they just sort of, hunt deer and do whatever they need to do. But in their own estate that they own, so you can pretty much chuck your tent up and you're pretty good. That's why I like Scotland so much. It's just you're never gonna have a bother with camping anywhere really.
Yeah, we did a big truck camping trip before we had kids, and we always looked on the Bureau Land Management, pretty much free campsites.
The
so
BLM,
you're like,
yeah.
Yep, searching for where you can. I'd be driving, she'd be trying to find a spot for us to camp, and it was absolutely awesome because we would end up in the most ridiculous camping spots. Like one of the coolest spots was camping on the rim of the Grand Canyon. And
what?
Yeah, you had to have like a truck to get through there, and yeah, I mean, I saw some of your photos on your page. Scotland looks absolutely gorgeous, so like the places you're camping, I'm sure were just breathtaking.
A lot of them were. I mean, one of my nights, it was a bus stop at the side of an A road. I put in a 19.5 hour day, and I was going to sleep anywhere. So I was a bit annoyed that I was in the most beautiful part of the country and I slept in a bus stop. But usually the camp spots are absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, there's no land management here, and there's no sort of, there's some private areas, but not as bad as you guys anyway.
That's great. Do you want to walk us through, just a summary of how those 5 days went? How long did it take you to finish this event?
So total time was 7 days, 10 hours
okay.
and 47 minutes. Yeah. So not the quickest. There's somebody won it in just over 3 and a bit days, and he had no kit on his bike, and he was.
My God.
Yeah, it was Alex McCormack. He's such an incredible rider, some young gun, just absolutely smashed it, and he was nuts. But yeah, the first day for me, I really wanted to get to a major resupply up in Fort Augustus, which is 155-ish, 155k in, something like that. So there was one last pass. It's called Corriaric Pass, and it takes you up to about 2,000 feet or whatever it is. It does take you up a long, long way, and I got to that point and I was feeling sick, which can sometimes happen. I get hungry, but sometimes it skips hunger and goes straight to feeling sick, and then I start thinking that I'm actually not well. Realistically, I just need to eat food. So we ended up staying, a few of us, I decided to stop in this bothy, which is, it's like an old shepherd's hut basically that has been taken over and done up with the permission of the owner. So it's usually the owner is the estate owner has all of this land and all of the buildings on it. So they grant the Mountain Bothy Association, permission to look after the building. So it's in their interest to keep the building up on all walls, but it's used as a refuge hut basically. And I was I'm gonna go in. I'll just work it out because I was feeling pretty hard on myself because I couldn't get to Fort Augustus by resupply because I wanted a pizza. So yeah,
that was your motivation for that first day, wasn't it?
It was, but I never got it. No. But there was a fire on, and I had dehydrated food, and then as soon as I ate some food, I was good to sleep then. So second day, I made Fort Augustus, so I had breakfast instead of pizza, and then that next day takes you all the way up to the next part, which was Oikel Bridge, which is a major resupply. I'm trying to remember, it's so soon since it's just happened, and it's all sort of merging into one already. It's really strange. The second part of the route takes you up to Oikel Bridge, which is one of the. Oh, sorry, no. The second day takes you up to Contin. Sorry, I've missed an entire bit. Compton was another small town, which is little resupply. But I got there really late. I got there like 10:30, so it's only a small little village. So everything was closed. And I just basically threw my tent up next to the A road. It was pouring down with rain. I just wasn't having. I didn't want to carry on in that. And there's a few people that sort of stopped and put the tents up in that, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just staying here. Had breakfast in Compton, and then the next day is like leading up right to the most northerly point. So that goes past the Oikel Bridge Hotel. Again, more food. And takes you down one of the most spectacular glens I've ever been in, called Glen Golly. This is very, very slightly downhill after a bit of a climb. It was very, very slightly downhill, but a bit of a tailwind. It was like plenty of rain. The Scottish call it mizzle, which is just mist and rain, so make it drizzly, getting soaking wet, and then it leads onto the Baylac Horn, which is like probably the biggest part of the route in my opinion, because it's so jaw-droppingly beautiful. But it's a bike and a half, so you go up to go right down to the bottom to go right up again. Oh yeah, so I camped just before that last push up. So day 3, see me from there, led me around towards I think it was heading towards all the. I'm gonna have to check now. Like I say, it's all merged into one. But yeah, the next day sort of led me around to back towards Oikel Bridge, because I wanted to get to Loch Inver for the pies. I've heard that the pies in the pie shop are absolutely incredible. But yeah, it turned out that I missed that altogether.
I'm sensing a theme here. Like the food was your motivation to get you through each day.
Basically, yeah. There's a lot of people joke that I do like to eat a lot of food, and yeah, I do. Well, yeah, it was leading on from there. It's like when I finally closed the top loop from Oikel Bridge, I was just so relieved that northern loop was done, because that was one of the most it's probably one of the more scarier loops, because I'd never done it before, and I know that there was a lot of hiker bike in it, more than I'd ever anticipated, to be honest. There was a lot of walking, but yeah, it takes you across from a bothy that I stayed at before Oikel Bridge, Sulag Bothy. It's like I think it took me about 3 or 4 hours to push my bike over the Leadmore Traverse, which is just a bouldery mess. It'd be great for walking, and taking your bike for a drag. It's not so good. You get like 3 pedal revolutions in, then you're off the bike, and then you're pushing the bike over bogs, and some of the track is actually quite hard to see. So when you actually get onto the tarmac to roll down to, like I say, closing that loop at Oikel Bridge, a slight tailwind, slight downhill again. It was just a dream. And then going on from there, it leads you around back to the west coast again, which is it's one of my most favourite parts of Scotland, to be fair. So I've ridden the North Coast 500, which goes right the way around Scotland. But I've done that on a road bike back in 2017. It took 6 days. I had a 7th day, which was a rest day, but it took 6 days, and each day was between 6 and 9 hours of riding. So not really that hard in the grand scheme of things, if you're comparing it to this. But once I got onto the west coast, it was just absolutely beautiful. It was really nice. I was heading towards a place called Ullapool then, which was probably is it day 4? Yeah, it's either day 4 or day 5. When I got to Ullapool, massive resupply. It's fish and chips and burgers or whatever you want, and then stuff your bags full of food, and then off you go again into Fisherfield. Fisherfield Forest is like the most remote place in I think in the whole of the UK. It's about 12 or 14 miles away from a main road, from any road actually. But it's not like a simple sort of 1 hour bike ride, because you've got to push your bike over more stones, more bogs, up mountains, and it's hours upon hours away from anywhere whatsoever. And then after you make it through Fisherfield, if you make it through Fisherfield, I was watching somebody on YouTube, and they said that basically if you get through Fisherfield, I think it was Annie Lee's video on the Ladies Highland Trail last year. She said if you get through Fisherfield, you're pretty much guaranteed to make it. And that's all I was thinking about. I was like, I need to get through it so I can be pretty much guaranteed to make it. And once I got through, it was a weight lifted, to be fair. And then the rest of the route was, I'm already compressing the distances, and I'm already making it a lot nicer in my head than it was. Because you ride along the Caledonian Canal, that's nice and smooth and flat, except for the detour, that's a bit lumpy. That was the night that I rode until like 2:30 in the morning and slept in a bus stop in a place called Dorney, because the day after that, the hiker bike up Glen Affric, I've never climbed anything with my bike as steep or as long or as hard to get up as that. That was a real test, that was. And then the rest of it was just relatively plain sailing after having a bit of a sleep at Loch Lochy, and which is really nice. It's basically like Lakey. So Loch Lochy in Scotland is it's a really nice place actually. And then onwards from there, it's just back to the start again. And yeah, 7 days and 10 hours of compressed information. Yeah.
Is there like an actual finish line, like a group or anything for this thing? Because you kind of start on your own, right? There's no like opening ceremony or finish.
I mean, there's no opening ceremony apart from the race director either rides it. This year he couldn't ride it. He's been bitten by a dog, so he didn't fancy getting the wounds all ripped open again and full of bog and stuff. Yeah, so he set us all off. He usually sets people off. If there's any warnings, like, watch the rivers, if the rivers are high, or, have fun or whatever. We all set off together. So all the top guns, all the racers, like the ones that are competing to get, a win or in the top 5 or 3, they all set off, and then you don't see them again. They're just gone, and then we all ride together. But there is an official start and an official finish line as well. It's just a little bit further up than where it used to be now, but you basically go past the little shop and then past the little graveyard, and then the second it goes on to gravel, that's it. You're off, and there's like a virtual line just on the floor, and there's like, that's the start line, that's the finish line. So yeah, it's pretty much when you finish, there may be nobody there because you might finish at 3:00 in the morning. But luckily I finished in the evening, and my friend Dawn was at the end. I couldn't believe it. I was made up to see somebody that I knew, and then Alan Goldsmith, the race director, came around the corner. I was just like, oh, there's people here. It's so weird. But usually you finish something like that and there's no one. You're just like, right, I'm done.
Yeah, that's what was kind of going through my head. How I don't know, like, you just complete this monumental thing, and everyone's like, nobody knows what I just did. Well, that's great. You got like a little bit of a celebration with a friend and the guy who set the thing up. That's awesome. Cool. Are you still buzzing from that completion? Because this was what, 2 weeks ago?
No, it was. I finished on Saturday just gone, so we're on Thursday now. So yeah, I'm still on a complete high. It's I'm still like telling people that I've told everything about it. I'm like, oh, there was this bit. I'm like, yeah, you said that. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'm still on such a high, and like I say, it wasn't the quickest. but I set out to complete it, and I've done it, and I'm well happy about it. So I'm like literally telling anybody that will listen.
Did you know any other people? Did you know any other people that were doing the race? Like, did you get a chance to reflect with other competitors at all?
I did actually, yeah. So I seen a few friendly faces at the start. My buddy actually turned up a few days before as well, so we had a little bit of a spin out with my other friends. So me, Alex, and Lars all went for a little bit of a bike ride up the glen and then back again. So super gentle. So I was like, if you get any hints and tips for a newbie, because they're route veterans, they've done it before. But like, just take it day by day. And that was hard to get in my head, to take it day by day, because it's 550 miles. It's a big old distance. I couldn't make it into a day by day. Eventually I got it into a day by day, and then turned the day into shifts. So I had like 3 shifts in a day. So the first part of the day was just horrible. The second part of the day was like getting the distance, and the third part of the day was just like putting the ribbon on it, basically. So when I got back and I was chatting with them, I was like, yeah, he told me to take it day by day. I'd done that, and then told them how I broke it down, and we were just talking about different parts of the route and like their adventures on it. Like, yeah, it was nice to reflect over a beer. And usually when you finish these things, you get nothing whatsoever. You might get a badge, at most. But if you completed it this year, the Real Food Cafe in Tyndrum said you can have fish and chips on the house. And because obviously I'm quite driven by food, I was like, I want that fish and chips. So yeah, I devoured my fish and chips and reflected it with people that were quicker than me and looked a lot fresher than me. And yeah, it was really, really nice to have that conversation at the end rather than just being sat alone.
That's wonderful. This might be a good transition to talk about just the bikepacking community in general. Like, I think you got a decent YouTube following, and you were saying in this pre-call that you talk to a lot of people around the world that are trying to get into bikepacking, and it seems like there's quite a solid presence of bikepackers in the UK. Like, do you have a lot of friends that do this? I guess anything you want to share about the community at large?
Yeah, I'm really lucky to have all the friends I've got, to be honest. I mean, I came back to a WhatsApp group chat that had 800 messages in it, all about the ride itself. So I've got like all of those guys that were like that I classed as really good friends. We've got friends that are in different circles, but still within the bikepacking community. And what I really like about it is if I bring a group of people together, like 2 groups of friends, they all get on together really well because we're all sort of with each other for the same thing, and we've got all the same interest. We're like, we just get on really well. So it does genuinely feel like a community. And when I get a message from somebody from like South Korea on my Instagram saying, hey, your pictures are amazing. Where's this from? I'm from South Korea. I do bikepacking. And I look on the profile and I'm like, actually, yeah, it's a real person. They're really bikepacking. It's so, so cool. I mean, it all comes, a lot of this sort of my friend groups comes from the community of the people that organise the Bare Bones 200, which is Bare Bones Bikepacking. They've got a forum on there that people are always like, selling stuff on, or they're like talking about different routes that they're doing, or they need a friend to come and do this with them. And that community spirit sort of came from there, because a lot of my friends came from that forum, from the events that Stuart Wright does with Bare Bones Bikepacking, and likes of Gen Ride, Rich Monroe, who organises Gen Rides up in the lakes. Every time you go somewhere on an event or a trip or a race, you come back with new friends and new phone numbers in your phone, and it really is a huge community. It's amazing. It's so, so nice.
I love that. It's always like, if you find a commonality. I don't remember what podcast it was, but if you're always working towards a common goal, whether it's a hobby, a sport or whatever, it's just you immediately connect with those people because you have something you're so deeply passionate about, and that typically reflects into everything. Like, I would imagine that you even get along with most of those people on political crap because you're like so aligned in this common interest of bikepacking, and it just like it spans out into like every other element of your life. That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, you mentioned this bare bones event. I think of all the events you've done aside from the Highland Trail, this one sounded the most interesting, at least from what you've shared with me. Can you give the listeners a little like introduction of what this bare bones event is and how many times you've done it?
Yeah, so Stuart Wright from Bare Bones every October does a 200-kilometer race, individual time trial, basically. And there's other events around Bare Bones. You've got the winter event, which is to get everybody out and in usually terrible weather in January, just after Christmas. So, it kicks off the year on a positive spin. And there's usually like tea and toaster, and it's like a real sort of social sort of thing, and it's never really big miles or anything. Then there's one midway throughout the year called the Welsh Ride thing. That is a grid reference based adventure. So Stuart will send out like a load of grid references that you can make a route up that will take in these grid references, like so it's like points of interest or an open field with nothing in it. It's just to create some sort of adventure. And then he does the 200 route, which is usually, it can be nice, it can be absolutely atrocious as well. So I've done 4 of them now. The first one, the 200k that I've done, I rode right through, and it took like 29 and a half hours elapsed time, and I hadn't had a sleep in that amount of time because I was really pushing myself to. I really wanted to finish sub 24 hours because you get a black badge then, and the black badge looks cool. I've only ever gotten green, which is like sub 30 something hours, I think it is. And then the next one, I couldn't complete. It was 40-mile-an-hour winds and rain, and it was a different route. So every single year, it's a different route. So you can't learn anything. And he doesn't tell you what the route is until maybe 2 weeks before. So you've got no way. You've got this mental block of not knowing where you're going. Because I know Mid Wales quite well for the amount of riding that I've done there. So that's not good because you're like, oh, is he going to take us over this? Or am I going to go through this or that? And then I completed the next one. I slept in another bus stop then. There's a bit of a theme there. I slept in another bus stop for a few hours and shivered and pretended to sleep, and finished again just under 30 hours. And the last one that I attempted to do last year was coined like that. It was basically noted as the hardest one that he's done since 2014. There's a place called Strata, Florida. Just those 2 words would make a lot of my friends cringe. It was like it's a 4x4 track, and it's usually quite waterlogged. So when the trucks are driving down these tracks, like the Land Rovers with the big tires and jacked up suspension and stuff, they lose the bonnet underneath, and they got snorkels on, like to get through it. And that was the way the route went. So it was quite funny to start off. It was like, oh, my feet are getting a bit wet. And then I was like, I'm actually riding through, my knees are getting wet whilst I'm on my bike. And then I was like, okay, now my thighs are getting wet whilst I'm riding on my bike. I probably need to get off and do something. I completely failed at that. I started feeling sick, which is that hunger thing, which it's taken me about 6 months to figure out that it's only hunger. But I was really dizzy as well, and then I was close to feeling, like I wanted to throw up, and it was really hot, so I don't know if it was just hunger and that one. But that was the hardest one. And I ended up just sleeping in a bivy bag. I didn't set my alarm. I had 7 hours straight sleep, and then I was like, I know my way back through a nice little valley, I'll just ride back to the start because I'm done with this route. It is absolutely brutal. It changes every year as well. So this year, it's likely to be just as bad, but who knows?
There's a couple. There's a guy who does like ultra marathons that I've recently discovered, and he does something similar. He makes these events that have like a little twist in them, or they're unique every single year, and it's just so wild to hear that there's people doing that with the bikepacking industry, or like the bikepacking sport, and I'm sure there's stuff everywhere, canoes and whatnot, and it's just like a fascinating element to these competitive events. What can you put the mind through and body through to push yourself?
Yeah, absolute terror.
Man, and even like, I mean, you said it before call, but you did a 550-mile race, the Highland Trail, and like this 200-mile one kicked your ass way more than
kilometer.
that. 200 kilometers.
Yeah,
it's weird.
200 like kilometers.
UK, I know, United States, like.
But it depends on who's made the events as to what they call it. Otherwise, it'd be the BB136 for the miles. Well, the 136 was, I couldn't even finish that, but I've done the Highland Trail, so it goes to show.
That's wild. So I like to always give people time to just tell some stories. So either in the events you just mentioned or any other ones, do any good stories come to mind that are, maybe brutal but kind of funny now that you've completed them?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to hallucinate somewhat. So after a certain amount of time of riding your bike, there's only so much that your brain stays with you, and then it'll start tricking you. I know that when I done Gen Ride in one go the first time, so that was the 130 miles, was it? Something like that, I can't remember. But when I done that in one go to start off, I seen a dead woman. She was like over this wall, sort of like just draped over the wall, like blonde hair, and she was just dead. By the time I got up to it, it was just a twig. I seen Mr. Potato Head on the floor. That was just a rock. I also had on the Highland Trail a few sleep monsters that come out for me just in the corner of my eye. Every so often I could see this shape, and it was this witch, and she had this long nose and long fingers with nails on, and I was like, she's not there. So it's that's probably the weirder side of it. And then you got the other side of it where you like have these interactions with people where you're looking pretty decrepit, you're on the floor, and you might be eating something, and you're covered in whatever you've been riding through, and like they have a little interaction with you, and they tell you about their adventure that they're going on, and you have this like sort of connection, and it's really nice. So it's cool to have like both extremes, and you never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to end up talking to either. But I really like that side of it. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's why I like to talk to. That's why I'm excited to talk to you, because this is not something I've done, but just like hearing about what you put yourself through, what you've accomplished with some of these rides, I just think it's totally fascinating. And I didn't know if, like, I know in running people hallucinate when they're going real strong. I wasn't sure if that was a thing that was common with biking or not, but I would have to imagine so. You're literally running your body on E for multiple days. It's a strange feeling. You kind of think you get away with it, and then before you know it, you're like, I've been hallucinating for quite a while now. It's odd. Oh man. Well, man, Alan, this is great. Is there any last minute things you want to say? Any shout outs you want to give before we shut this down?
Yeah, I think I really need to thank my wife. So I think without her, I wouldn't be where I am now. doing what I'm doing. I realised that takes a lot of time off us. And yeah, she's an absolute rock. You know, I love her to bits. She's absolutely amazing. So yeah, got to thank her and all my friends as well. You know, they're amazing. Like a lot of people that I've dragged out on big bike rides. Some of them are really strong riders, and they're like, "Why are we going out in the rain?" I'm like, "Oh, I've got to train." They're like, "Okay, then." So yeah, I've got really good friends all around. So big shout out to them. And then also I've just been accepted as a brand ambassador for Ace Pack Bags, which is a bike packing brand that I've actually been using since 2019, something like that. So for them to now support me in my silly endeavors and adventures, you know, that's pretty cool. So big shout out to Ace Pack Bags as well. So yeah, all good.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'll leave links to your YouTube channel and your Instagram page. Everyone
Cool.
go check it out. You got some great footage of some of the rides you've done, either for social rides or competitive or whatnot. Like I was pretty impressed by some of the edits you've done and everything on there. So I'll definitely leave links so people can check that out. But otherwise, hope you had fun. Thanks for coming on, Owen.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.